The school that I attended my placement was Northmead Public School. Northmead is located in the Sydney metropolitan area, approximately 6 kilometres north of Parramatta. There was approximately 730 students. Within Northmead Public School, there is a diverse community present with a strong support from active parent bodies. The school is currently culturally diverse, with over 37% of students coming from a language background other than English, which includes 46 language-speaking backgrounds. Less than 1% of the students are identified as being Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander cultures. I was placed in a 5-6 class during my placement with a female mentor teacher who had 20 years experience. The class consisted of 28 students, 14 from each year. The classroom setting included a flexible seating arrangement that consisted of different styles of desks, lounge chairs, and cushions to accommodate all types of learners. Around the classroom displayed students' works, learning expectations, goals, and classroom values. All students have easy access to iPads and laptops when required within the lesson. Within the classroom, there were students who were diagnosed with learning difficulties, autism, ADHD, and ADD. Students were also from diverse backgrounds and learning abilities. Students were able to communicate what they were learning about and reasoning behind it. Students were friendly and enjoyed working together. Throughout most lessons, students were engaged. This was visibly noticed by wanting to stay longer on task, deep focus, increased interactions, and students questioning. By implementing creative pedagogies with student-centered learning, I aim to change and refine my practices and improve engagement and achievements within the classroom from my students. After looking back and reflecting on my practices, I have found myself taking control of the learning experiences and having a heavy teacher focus and center learning, which I now know isn't effective within the classroom. After furthering my understanding and knowledge by reading different literature, I have found that it is evident I need to adapt and change my ways. By doing this, I believe I need to adopt a new practice and teaching to allow students to be center and have a say in their learning, allowing for hands-on, higher engagement and cognitive thinking to occur. This will allow myself to step back and become the facilitator of the lesson and not the focus, which will allow for my students to take control and ownership of their learning and understanding. One way of conducting this style of learning and classroom is to implement and encourage creativity. Creativity will allow for students to become problem solvers and be flexible within their learning. I believe it's important to change my ways and my pedagogy focus to have a more student-focused lessons and learning style. As a teacher, that can be hard to let go and allow students to become autonomous and take control of their learning. But in doing this, it will allow for some great learning experiences and engagement from students to occur. Motivation in the classroom will increase. Higher cognition will occur from students. Students will also be able to take ownership of their learning and become more autonomous in their education, and in doing this, it will provide them with better experiences later in life regarding education. This will also allow for students to find other students and take part with higher volumes of peer collaboration and teaching to help one another. Peer collaboration teaching will be great for students to take part in, as it will allow them to have their own learning styles and reflect on others and to help incorporate it. This stimulating environments awaken students to learning that can make a difference to them, their future, and their peers. The Fair Go project and the Zigzag approach will help guide my teaching as it supports and encourages students' creativity to promote higher intellectual and quality learning experiences for students. Bob Jeffrey focuses on learning inclusiveness for creative learning and highlights the importance of seeking to involve children and enable them to have some agencies and control over their learning, as this will provide more optimal learning spaces and environments for students to take part in. Data collection will be collected for each of my 3 lessons in order to check where students are at, assess their learning, and making sure they're engaged and on task. Work samples will be collected throughout each stage of the 3 lessons. Work samples will include videoing of the class debate towards the end so we can reflect back on how the students went and I can assess that later. Work samples will also be recorded at the end by taking students' argument pieces and marking those to see how they have implemented their arguments and if they have been able to go through each process of how to actually write one, as well as the final planning sheet of the debate will be collected. Another form of collecting data within these lessons will be from observations. Observations will occur within each session through the teacher monitoring while group and individual work is being conducted. This will include walking around and observing and asking questions to make sure students are on task, check the level of engagement. This can be done by asking questions, observing the work that has been written already down, as well as provide any extra help if needed. This can include prompts to help guide or reminding the students that they have scaffolding if need be. Through these observations, I will be able to take notes to analyze later for where all the students are at. Finally, the last form of data collection will be self-assessments. These self-assessments will be used to get further understanding of how the students found this task. Exit slips will be filled out to provide information regarding how students found this task, their level of enjoyment, their favourite part, and what they have learnt, and any other further information regarding the task. Examples could include improvements, what they found was challenging, and how the team and group work went. There will also be a whole class reflection at the end where we will discuss how we believe everyone's task went, and that having these different self-assessments will allow another form of data collection where I'm able to collect work samples and sheets to help analyze students' work and their level of engagement and if they're meeting the intended outcomes for this lesson. All the 3 methods of data collection can provide myself with enough information to analyze students' achievement and engagement throughout the lessons. The data will be analyzed using markers of engagement and markers of achievement, which will be in relation to the learning outcomes. The evaluated data will be then categorized into high cognitive, high affective, and high operative engagement. The data will help analyze if the learning outcomes that were intended have been met. Through observing students and collecting their work samples, it is evident that students are meeting the intended outcomes within the English syllabus. Markers of engagement is evident within the lesson plans and can be seen through observing students' level of excitement, high affective, the initiative, which is high operative, and their contribution, which is high cognitive. From work samples, it shows students are effectively collaborating with peers, which is high operative. From student self-assessment data collected, it is evident that there is enjoyment within the task, which is high affective, and by providing information about group work, which is high cognitive, provides information to help further tasks later. During my first placement, it was very eye-opening to what I will be experiencing as a future teacher and the struggles I will be faced with regarding student engagement and behaviours that might occur within the classroom regarding learning. This allowed me to think about what changes I might need to make regarding my approaches to teaching practices and my pedagogy. Through the help of reading and understanding further literature, teaching approaches, and reviewing the teaching standards, I have been able to adjust and adapt my teaching approaches, which I believe will be more helpful in the future. In line with the Australian Professional Standards for Teaching, Standard 3, it's important that as a teacher you are constantly evaluating and improving your teaching and learning. This will allow for personal growth, as it's important when a learning experience is effective or not. In relation to Standard 1, I realized very early on how important it is to take notice and to get to know your students, to learn and understand how they learn, individually and within groups. Without doing this, you won't be able to plan lessons that are beneficial and correct level for all students. This is where differentiation will also be vital and come into play within your learning lessons. Encouraging creativity will allow for students to express themselves, and as teachers it will allow you to understand your student.